Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, very nice to meet you. Thank you. Appreciate it doing this for, people. Great. And
Give me a background of what are you looking, do you have any rental properties you're looking to get into investing? Is that where you're at right now?
actually, no, I have a purchased the two property right now, and I'm working on the two property right now. But I'm
Okay.
pretty new to this. I mean, and honestly, I started everything, from your video.
And so talk to me about your first two properties. Congratulations on getting two
uh,
properties. That's awesome. You're definitely ahead of the game than most people. So talk to me about those two properties so
I
I can help
mean,
you out somehow.
I just got the email from the Baltimore City for my second property. The
Where,
email saying
where did you purchase at?
it was the
28th Street in Greenmount?
nearby Greenmount, not the Greenmount Avenue, 28th Street, 1808. But
Cold
house
Spring,
was
Montebello? You're close to
right, 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 right,
Morgan
right,
State.
right,
Okay,
right.
cool.
Yes,
Yeah, gotcha.
yes. So house was
Gotcha.
vacant for a long time, and then they said I was get in that timing gap. Previous owner got the citation and everything, and then purchasing me. I think right before the city filed the case to the court.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Yeah, you purchased a property and you're dealing with the stresses of trying to get Baltimore City citations removed.
Uh,
Is that correct?
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're having trouble with that. What citate you have? Do you have a condemned building citation?
Yes.
What other citations do you have on the building?
I think no, that's it right now. And then the attorney from city saying as long as I could provide the scope of work and then progress of work and then like available fund to finish the work, they'll accept. I think I'll be okay. But other than that, also like because I took your class as well, and then like whole session you talk about the contractor, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I choose the wrong contractor. So it took me.
Was it helpful? Was the class helpful in learning
Yeah,
the
I
contract?
mean, I wish I could have it before, you know,
I'm sorry you didn't take it before.
right? So
That,
I'm also in between. I'm changing the contractor right now because I mean, the contractor took me too long time, and you say on the class I cannot communicate well. Like he doesn't respond to call. But I mean,
you're learning by fire. You're
right?
learning by fire, and a lot of people actually that might take the course that don't have properties. Some of
Okay,
that stuff won't hit
right.
until they actually go through the situation. The goal there is for people to take the course, and then when the situation happens, they go, "Okay, Dave said something about this. I remember him saying something about this." Either go
Right.
back to the course, or then the light bulb to come on.
Uh,
Because what ends up happening is usually we get the knowledge, but we don't have the experience to go, where do I use this? Or why is it important? Until after the bad stuff happens. And then you go, oh, that's why Dave said that. That's why he said
right.
that. The condemned thing in the city, that is super stressful, challenging part. There's certain ways that you can go about before you purchase a property. If you go under, I don't know if it's SDAT. I don't know off the top of my head the site that you go to. I could probably look it up. It'd take me like 3 minutes to figure it out. To figure out what your citations and your in violations. And I don't know why they're different. There's citations and their violations. And this in Baltimore City is the worst with this. Sometimes it's really hard. You have to type in the address like a really certain specific way. And if you don't, it will say, nope, no citations found. And just because maybe you put 28th and you added a TH, it didn't pop up. But there is and so every time before I purchase and finalize a property, I always go in, I call it a property background check. I don't have this in the Mastering the Rehab course because it's technically not part of the rehab, but I basically go through and I check, hey, what are the water bills? Are they out? Because if you look at the water bills, you can tell if you have maybe a busted line because you'll say, every month the water bill is $1,500. And you can go, okay, either they have a running toilet like all the time, or there's a broken pipe under the thing. And guess what? You're going to have to take care of that.
Right.
So if you do that pre-purchasing the property, but figuring out the violations and whether it's condemned, sometimes you have, and it doesn't matter if it's condemned or even if there's a citation from 2016 for long grass. So I get this all the time. When I purchase property, it's like, hey, you got a citation from 2012 long grass. And guess what? You have to clear that before you get a rental license. Baltimore City will not issue a rental license until you clear that citation.
Wow.
And it seems like it should be really easy to clear the citation. Sometimes it's very often in Baltimore that you have to just have the right contact in these offices because a lot of people just don't want to do their jobs. That's like anywhere. I don't want to rag on Baltimore too much. I love to rag on Baltimore, but sometimes you just have to have the right contact in the office. And so instead of going through their process and saying, hey, trying to email or call, you'll realize this, you call the number they tell you to call and nobody picks up. It just rings all day long. I've done that. Don't have to ask me how many hours I spent. So you end up figuring out the takeaway here is you figure out who the contact is in the citation violation office that you can email directly and say, I'm having a problem. I need this solved. Can you have, there is no long grass. It's an old citation, but I need it removed to get my rental license. I will email you over the contact that I have for violation of citations. But for the building being condemned, I've actually never purchased a building being condemned. One of my students just did. I think the only thing you need to do is you need to pull a building permit. You're going to have to pull permits on your property for your renovation. I don't know what the condition of the property was, but that I would assume that it was a value add property that you need to do renovation. You're talking about working with a contractor. You can pull the building permit yourself, but you're going to need to pull some permits there. And I just be careful with how many permits I pulled because it's very similar with people that like to work or don't like to work. Some of the inspectors that come out don't always know what they're talking about. And so sometimes they'll have you, it just makes life really difficult. So things that aren't even in the code book, they're going to say, hey, you need to do this. And you're like, what? Why do I need to do that? So I've and that's just part of the game in Baltimore. That's why it's a bit tougher place to invest.
We passed the electrical rough in, and then actually inspector came back and saying like you have to change it, and we had to do the another 2 inspection for electrical rough in. I mean, finally we passed. Like, it was miserable. It wasn't easy.
Should be easier for you if you're working with the your biggest thing is find the right contractors right now. If you find the right contractors, you can have, and I think I talk about in the course, you can actually have crappy systems. Not that you want to have crappy systems, but if you find good contractors and you focus on that, most contractors will never focus on that. They'll get comfortable in their relationship with their contractors. Contractors will just be subpar and they'll struggle and continue to struggle until they understand that top grading your contractors is what makes life easy. Because guess what? They're going to deal with the inspectors. And the good contractors already have relationships with inspectors. So inspectors come and go, hey, Joe, how's it going? Good to see ya. Do I need to check this? No, you don't need to check that. You know I've done it right. I know you do it right. And they freaking walk out and you're like, what just happened? This guy just, you didn't even look at the thing. And it's because they have, it's just because they know each other and they're comfortable and, but that's just how the game's played. And that's just how the game's played. What do you do, Vince? Like, what's your 9 to 5? Or do you have a 9 to 5?
Actually, I do. I do have a cell phone retail stores, like, multiple locations in Baltimore. So I've been doing the cell phone retail business for over 10 years. That's my 9 to 5 work. And
then why are you pivoting to real estate? I don't even want to say pivoting, but why are you adding real estate on instead of staying in that asset class of cell phone repair stores?
First, my mom, my country in South Korea, she's a real estate investor. So since I was young, I had that all the time, but I never thought about it in US. And then I was busy to build the cell phone business for up till now. And one of my friend actually, honestly, I had a couple chance about the flipping business about 5 years ago, but I never pay attention to it. But this time, one of friend who recommend you to me, he presents like what he learned, from you and everything. And I don't know, it just,
who was that? Who recommended you meet?
He's actually, the cell phone business, like the area manager. So he was the one actually introduced me this. And then, I don't know, that time, like, kind of like it fits me. And then plus when I picture it, everything, because I do have my team working with me right now closely, right? And then I was always thinking about them, like, what we could do better than what we are doing right now. And then also that kind of like, secure for their retirement plan as well. Because the retail business is kind of like, I mean, we're doing good, like, but still, I don't see any the stable, energy from the business,
The cash flow from, I mean, is it seasonal? Is that what you're saying? It's more like seasonal cash flow, and so it's not stable?
No, business itself is pretty good, like, but I mean, the future of the business, because I mean, cell phone, business became essential business for sure, but I don't know, I want to keep this, rest of my life, I want to say. Also, it's individual business, but also it depends on the carrier side a lot. Let's say Boost Mobile is struggling, then I mean, I own real estate, but still my business will struggle.
Yeah.
So it's not like 100% fully my control of a business.
I
But
mean, one strategy you could do too is you could parlay real estate and your Boost Mobile business where you are renting out a space in the real estate.
right, that's what my friend that, like, who brought me into this. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, I mean,
So
that's definitely
yeah,
that's an interesting model. I mean, I think that's a good model because then you're getting the benefits of real estate and lowering your risk a bit. I mean, and the worst case scenario, you can always move out and then lease it out to a different tenant.
right.
So you're
Yep.
getting both, and you're already going to have to pay rent somewhere. So it's like you're paying yourself. That's just like an efficient model. Are you an accredited investor, Vince? Do you know?
What do you mean by that?
Do you have a $1 million or more net worth without your primary residence, or do you make $250,000 or more a year in the past 2 years? Both past 2 years.
Without the residency, yeah, no. But like, yeah, I make more than $250,000.
So you've done that the last 2 years?
Yes.
Okay, so then you qualify as an accredited investor. There's also other investments that you can invest in that are not, I mean, you're kind of skipping the real estate line that you invest with operators, whether it's real estate syndications, whether it's debt funds, where you're not hands-on, but it's providing that diversification that you're looking for. I have half of my stuff in real estate and buildings. That's how I built my wealth. And over the past 3 years, now I have half my stuff in real estate syndications and lending funds. And so it's passive. It's 100% passive. And now I have it like split down the middle. It's no control. So it's a little bit nervous, like, hey, I'm handing you a lot of money. Hopefully it comes back to me. So you have to really trust the operators, and you don't want to just invest with anybody. But there's some operators that have been doing real estate for 15 or 20 years in the same asset class, and they have a track record that have returned money. But a lot of times you can make 12 to 15% just with those operators. And sometimes when you're at your level, you don't have to build, you've already built the wealth you've already worked really hard in the cell phone industry. I mean, and the reason I started passive investing is when I think of myself as 80 or 90 years old, I don't want 100 properties. I don't want 200 properties. That sounds miserable. That doesn't sound fun to me. But if you're in a different scenario where you don't have the wealth, you can't do that. I mean, you can't invest in a lot of the things that I just talked about. So I don't talk about it that much on my channel. I'm going to start talking about it a little bit more, but it's just not talked about very often. But it's almost like and a lot of people probably get frustrated because, like, hey man, people that are already have built wealth have access to these, but I don't have the wealth and I can't invest in them. So a lot of people think it's kind of unfair. Totally get it. But for some people that are like doctors or psychologists and they're already accredited, it's like, hey man, you don't have to do this hands-on stuff. You have other tools that can provide you monthly cash flow that you literally have to just vet the operator, say, hey, this person, does that make sense?
Yes.
And so I would probably recommend somebody in your style doing that instead of getting involved in a completely different business, unless you totally love real estate. And so you'll have to figure it out. I mean, I know you're having your lumps right now. Everybody has their lumps, their first couple of properties, but it's sometimes people love it. I was super passionate about it. I super loved it, but I could spend I'd sleep at the properties sometimes. I used to renovate the properties and sleep in them. So I'd be even in Baltimore when I first came to Baltimore, I would get to know the area, and because I didn't want to drive back and forth from Virginia, I'd sleep in the property, get the renovation done. So just do crazy stuff, and bring my sleeping bag, sleep on the floor, go to breakfast in local. But that's how I got to know all the neighborhoods, because I'm not from Baltimore. So I got to understand, oh, this is how this area is, and it gave me a very unique, I almost call it an advantage. I do call it an advantage, because I'd come into areas that people are like, oh, that zip code's terrible. I'd never invest in there. I'd be like, I mean, I think it's all right. These blocks are pretty good and they worked out really well for me. Hopefully that all makes sense. I just threw a
Yeah.
lot of information
Yeah.
at you, but you do
No,
have,
no.
it doesn't necessarily have to be hands-on real estate. That is a great way to build wealth, but it sounds like you've already built a pretty good plan. You're just looking for some diversification and a retirement plan. This other stuff does that without the stresses of condemned buildings
Yeah.
and in Baltimore City inspectors. But I will definitely let you know if I open up a spot for
Please.
real estate investing.
Yeah.
And congratulations on your two properties. So hopefully that helps a
Okay.
little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
And I say it in the course, it's a living document. So that's going to change over time, whether it's
Okay.
materials. And so you kind of have
Sure.
to stay on top of that to be like, hey, are
Sure.
materials more expensive here? Or did they get cheaper? But I mean, you're in the ballpark for most of those things. In there, there's also the second estimate. One other thing that I didn't actually add in there is I will often save contractors' estimates in a G Drive folder.
Okay.
Just so I have, and just so I'm really dialed in on how much things cost and making sure that it's a standardized price. I've really hit standardized price in the course. You want to make sure you're getting a standardized price. You don't want a contractor willy-nilly going, this is my gut. Those are the contracts you don't want to deal with. You're like, oh, this is how much it costs. I mean, and you might have already heard that. This is the cost, Vince. This is the cost.
Okay.
Like, well, because you'll have contractors come back and they'll charge you different prices. And you're like, why are we $2,000 more expensive? This is the exact same thing from that roof.
Okay.
and they don't have an explanation. And so that's why you have to give them the explanation.
Okay.
Well, this needs to be price per square. Hopefully that helped a little bit. But
yeah, I mean, definitely. Okay.
I appreciate that. And I will
All
send you over the contacts, and nice
All right.
speaking with you and meeting you, Vince.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Bye.
See ya.